Imagine a tiny village, hidden deep in the hills of Bihar, India. The roads are just dust paths that become raging rivers when the monsoon hits. There's no doctor, no ambulance, and no mercy from the mountain that stands like a silent stone giant between the people and the world. One afternoon back in 1959, a woman named Falguni Devi was carrying food to her husband, who was working on the other side of that mountain. She was pregnant, and she was careful. But the path was narrow, treacherous, and slick with old rain. One slip, one scream that echoed and then vanished. She fell. Villagers found her, broken, at the bottom of the ridge. They carried her home on a makeshift stretcher. Her husband, Dashrath Manjhi, a poor laborer from the lowest caste, ran to her side. He held her hand, begging the sky for just a little more time. But the nearest hospital was 55 kilometers away, a full day's brutal trek over that same unforgiving mountain. By the time anyone could have reached help, she was gone. That night, Dashrath sat beside her body, under the stars, the mountain looming darker than ever. He didn't cry out. He just whispered to her, "This won't happen to anyone else. Not if I can help it." What would you do if the thing that killed the person you loved most wasn't fate or illness, but just geography? A wall of rock. Would you curse it? Or would you pick up a tool and start breaking it? The very next morning, people saw him walking towards the hill. In his hands were a simple hammer and chisel. No one understood. They whispered, "He's gone mad with grief." He didn't argue. He just started chipping away at the stone. Day after day, week after week, year after year. At first, the villagers mocked him. "Dashrath," they'd laugh, "the mountain won't move for one man." Children threw stones. The elders shook their heads in pity. Even his own family worried he'd lost his mind. But every single sunrise he was there, hammer striking chisel, chisel biting rock, tiny flakes falling like snow in the summer heat. His hands blistered, then calloused into armor. His back bent, but it never broke. He'd eat whatever little food he could beg for or earn from odd jobs, and he'd sleep under the open sky. Picture this, 22 years. That's longer than most careers, longer than it takes a child to become an adult. Every single day for 22 years, one man against a mountain. No team, no funding, no promise of glory. Just a silent promise he made to a woman who could no longer hear it. There were winters when the frost cracked his tools. Summers when the sun felt like fire on his neck. Monsoons when water rushed down the cut he'd made, threatening to wash away all his progress. He faced snakes, scorpions, and a loneliness that could crush any lesser spirit. Once, a group of men came to stop him. "You're wasting your life," they shouted. "Come back to the fields." He looked up, sweat and dust streaking his face, and said quietly, "If I stop, who will remember her? Who will save the next mother, the next child?" They had no answer. They left him alone, and he kept going. Years passed. The cut in the mountain grew. First, it was just a narrow groove, then a trench. Then, slowly, it became a real path. People started using it, hesitantly at first. A sick child was carried through, reaching help in time. An old woman saved hours on her journey. The mockery that once followed him slowly turned into whispers of wonder. Have you ever felt invisible? Like your pain, your effort, your love doesn't matter to the world? Dashrath must have felt that every day for 2 decades. Yet he never waited for applause. He worked because stopping would mean betraying her memory. Finally, in 1982, after 22 long years, he struck the final blow. The path was finished. A road 110 meters long, 9 meters wide, and over 7 meters deep in places. What used to be a 55-kilometer journey was now just 15 kilometers. The villagers on both sides of the mountain could finally breathe. Mothers reached doctors in time. Children went to school without fear. He didn't celebrate with grand speeches. He simply sat on a rock, looked at what his hands had made, and maybe, for the first time in decades, let a tear fall. Later, he walked all the way to Delhi, barefoot, to ask officials to properly pave the road. He was eventually honored by the government, and in 2016, India Post issued a stamp with his face on it. But he never sought fame. He just wanted to make sure no one else would lose what he had lost. Dashrath Manjhi passed away in 2007, but his path remains. Today they call it Dashrath Manjhi Road. Kids play on it. Trucks rumble through it. Lives are saved every single day because one grieving man refused to accept that it's just how it is. So, let me ask you, when life puts a mountain between you and everything you love, what will you do? Will you curse the rock? Or will you pick up your hammer? Dashrath Manjhi didn't move the mountain. He carved a path right through it, one impossible chip at a time. And in doing so, he reminded every single one of us that the greatest monuments aren't built with money or machines. They're built with love that refuses to die, and a heart that says, not one more life. Not on my watch. If a poor laborer from a forgotten village can carve hope out of solid rock, what can you carve out of your own struggles today? Somewhere, right now, there's a mountain in your life. And somewhere inside you, there's a hammer waiting. Pick it up. Start chipping. Your path is waiting to be made. Thanks for watching. If this story moved you, please consider sharing it. You never know who might need to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that inspire.